Good morning and welcome to the Camnet Breakfast Show with me, Patrick Soko, and my co-host, Shalon Kalimbula. As usual, we say, your hosts who love you the most.
Indeed, a very good morning to you, our viewers. Welcome to Eat. Thank you so much for joining us. When you see this strip message, you know that it's about to get down up into the hour of 9. And we have a number of things, as usual, lined up for you. We'll be zooming into some of the stories that made headlines. We'll be going into the health corner as well as the morning boost. A fresh one, actually, Patrick, live in the gym.
Yes.
Muntu wanga also on the gym. Let's look at this.
As if we
I love the gym. Let's look at the health, the morning boost, Mr. B, please. Push it.
Hello guys, it's another great edition. So today I'm going to take you in cardio here at Chosen Fitness in Kablonga in conjunction with the Camnet TV. Let's go, let's do cardio together. We go. Okay, get ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're skipping for a minute. Let's go. Let's go. For a minute, keep going. Two, 1, and cut. From here we punch. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. 20 seconds. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and cut. Next one, we're stepping up. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Forty seconds. Thirty seconds. Let's go. $20. 50 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and cut. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed. Next time.
Right, there you have it, gymming, if I thought there's such a word. Is there such a word, Patrick? I've come up with it.
Yes.
Who came up with words, first of all, for us to be forbidden to come up with words?
No, they don't forbid.
They don't forbid,
It becomes too common.
Gymming.
I just noticed that the BBC is trying to move with trends. And in some of the articles, they are putting it there, like DE.
What does that mean?
It's there.
There.
In Africa, you know, there.
Especially the Nigerians who can speak good English. Who can speak proper. You know?
In fact, the Nigerians have just reinvented the English into their own.
Into their own,
it's a
yes.
mixture of Jamaican, Nigerian, or whatever.
It's just all over. I think I saw a meme. Imagine if I thought the Bible was written in Nigerian English. The pastor in church would go like, now Jesus go say. Now Jesus go say, go make the wine, go do the miracle. Oh my goodness.
Let me sit for fun. That's when we're saying, I want to sit in the front. Me na sitting na for front.
It's a lot of work, but anyways, that's what you have when you are on the breakfast show with me and Patrick Soko. Let's go straight into the health corner and see what the doctors have for us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ikonga from University Teaching Hospital. I'm a registrar in the Department of Internal Medicine, and I'm also a member of the Medical Women's Association of Zambia. So today we are going to be discussing on kidney functions. On the 10th of March, we were celebrating World Kidney Day. And so you may be wondering that probably you heard from your friend or your sibling, you know, about kidneys. You may be wondering, what are these kidneys? So kidneys are important organs in the body. They are found in the abdomen at the back, right below the rib cage, you know, adjacent to the spine. And so they perform important functions in the body. The most important one is clearing up waste products from the blood. So there are quite a number of items that we ingest, that we drink and whatnot, and this could be toxic to our body. And so the kidneys help in eliminating waste products, okay? Anything that's toxic in the body. We know that the main function of that is, it comes from the liver, but the kidneys also help in removing waste products from the body. And so if anything goes wrong with the kidneys, you'll find all these toxins are going to build up in the blood and are going to cause various problems. And so apart from eliminating waste products from the blood, the kidneys also help in blood pressure control. So there are some people who have been diagnosed with hypertension, and you find they've tried everything. They've tried all medications from the doctor, they've tried diet, they've reduced on salt, all those good attributes, you know, but you find the blood pressure is still not being controlled. And so that could be a sign, okay, that maybe there's something wrong with the kidneys, because the kidneys help in regulating the blood pressure. So if blood pressure is not being controlled well, maybe there's a problem with the kidneys. The other important function is when it comes to salt as well as electrolytes, water regulation in the body. So if someone is dehydrated, they've not taken enough water, there are certain sensors in the kidneys that will notice that there's low water in the body. And so the kidneys will try by all means to hold on to that little water which is in the body. And so you find you pass out concentrated urine. The reverse is true. If you've drunk too much water, the sensors in the kidneys will notice that there's too much water in the body. And so that's how you'll find that you're passing dilute urine. The urine looks clear. Okay. Another important function of the kidneys is when it comes to minerals in the body. And so these minerals are important for when we look at the bones, for us to be able to make movements, to walk from A to B, the bone functions. The kidneys help in depositing minerals in the bones so that we can perform our daily functions. And so you'll find if the kidneys are not doing well, or that function of the minerals becomes less, and so you find they come with fractures, bone pain, back pain, and whatnot. The other important function for the kidneys is when it comes to red blood cell production. And so blood is important, to carry oxygen, to carry nutrients to various tissues in our body, and the kidneys help in that. So they produce a certain hormone such that if there's low blood in the body, that hormone will be released, which comes from the kidneys, and that hormone is going to help to stimulate the production of red blood cells so that you can come back to your normal state. Okay, so those are some of the main functions of the kidney. Okay, blood pressure production, looks at minerals, red blood cell production, regulating the salt and the water in our body, but the most important one basically is to eliminate the waste products from the body. And so the take-home message is that the kidneys may look small. Maybe some of us have not heard so much about them, but they are very, very important organs. They do a lot of important functions for us to be able to go from point A to point B.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Camnet Breakfast Show. Thank you for staying with us. And we were just looking at the issues pertaining to kidney. We hope you managed to learn one or two things. Madam Kalimbula, we have to know how our kwacha is performing this morning.
Indeed, Patrick, let's look at how the kwacha is faring so that you can change those dollars that you've been keeping in your house. The United States dollars is buying at 16 kwacha 91 ngwe and selling at 17 kwacha 23 ngwe. The euro is at 17 kwacha 56 ngwe and selling at 17 kwacha 89 ngwe. The Great British pound is at 20 kwacha 30 ngwe and selling at 20 kwacha 68 ngwe. While the South African rand is at 1 kwacha and selling at 1 kwacha 02 ngwe. Is it gaining strength, Patrick?
Not really, because we are in the 17 bandwidth.
I mean, the South African rand.
The South African rand
is catching up.
Yes, it's catching up, and it has been performing relatively fine compared to the past, especially this week. I saw an update, and well, whatever we're doing, that made us have a stable currency. Let's do that over and over again.
Let's do that over and over again, and ensure that these other currencies don't become fat on us.
Yes, yeah. I understand that the euro is on account of the economic situation in the European Union bloc, as well as the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine that has also affected them, and also the US making frantic efforts to just work on their currency that has made the euro to be a little bit sluggish in terms of performance. But we are seeing that equally it is also picking up compared to that time, Sharon, when where you and I were celebrating the kwacha performance. But I don't think I can still see the same smile that you used to wear a few weeks ago. Because
I wore that smile because of Prudence. Prudence had a bit of some kwachas, some dollars. So she needed to change it. She was keeping them for that option time. And whenever I smiled, I always had her in my mind. But anyways, we hope that she managed to raise some money. Let's look at one of the stories, Patrick. One of the leading stories. It's not something very interesting, but it's worth talking about. The increase in power in fuel, Patrick. It's become a normal thing. It's become a normal thing. I mean, way back would really look forward to this, would really get excited, it would be very topical. Stakeholders would come in here and there, would give in their perspective. But
I think people have reached their limit.
That's like boring.
People have reached their limit. Whether we say that we're going to increase anyway.
Yes, you're going to increase anyway. So we just have to tighten our belts. Let's look at that story as we zoom in our guest this
Before we do
morning.
that, we need to give the people an highlights of the 2022
the
World Cup. Yes, so that's
the 16 rounds.
Yeah.
Are we in the 16 now?
Yes, we
are now in the 16 round.
We'll be going there next week.
I only know that there was a match yesterday. Is it Tunisia against Brazil? Is it?
Okay, let's go there.
That's what I know.
Let's go there. Let's go, yeah, Tunisia and Brazil.
16 rounds!
Yesterday we had some matches that we have played. Madam Karimbula, you tried on
France!
So yes, Tunisia was up against France. On that one, you only managed to get Tunisia. I think you are coming up. So Tunisia were playing France, and they managed to win by 1-0. And first, they are using a relatively a side that has not been playing. They also made some changes, a lot of changes, and I think that gave an opportunity to Tunisia so that they could counterize. But however, that the outcome in terms of who progresses was not in their favor. Let's look at Australia played Denmark, and they managed to win by 1-0. And in Group C, we had Poland, who were playing Argentina, and Argentina managed to win this match by 2-0. And the interesting part about this game is that in Group C is that Argentina Poland and Argentina, despite Poland losing the match, they progressed. This is because Saudi Arabia and Mexico played to a 2-1 aggregate. In this case, if Mexico had managed to beat Saudi Arabia by 2-0, they were going to progress to the final. But unfortunately, Saudi Arabia managed to score in the last minutes of the game. That was devastating for Mexico. I hope you managed to watch that game. It was quite a match to watch in terms of the excitement, the anxiety that it brought about. Quite an interesting match. Now, let's also look at the games that will be played today. We are looking at Croatia, who will be up against Belgium, and that's in Group F. We also have Canada up against Morocco. Quite an interesting encounter there. And looking at Group E, let's see. Group E, we have Japan and Spain, Costa Rica and Germany, and we are going to see Japan playing against Spain. This is a team that has been playing good football, in that they are a team that has been holding too much possession of the ball, and Japan has been also an aggressive side in terms of giving pressure to the other sides. So these are the matches that will be played today, and looking at tomorrow will mark the end of the group stage to progress to the round of 16, which Sharon was talking about earlier. And that's we are going to have in Group H South Korea playing against Portugal, and we also have Ghana, the representing Africa there, playing Uruguay. And our prayer is that the Black Stars will be a better side and make sure that they do us proud as a continent by making sure that they emerge victorious and progress to the round of 16. Let's also look at Group G. Group G, we have Serbia, Switzerland, as well as Cameroon and Brazil. And we are going to have the boys from Yaoundé playing the Samba boys, and at 21 hours. And this match is quite interesting in that Cameroon need victory, and play that Serbia on the other side does not make it, and that's going to be an interesting. So these are the teams, Sharon, that have made it so far to the round of 16. Okay. Have you seen the round of 16?
2, 4, 6, 8.
Yes, not 16
so
rounds.
You need 8 more.
Yes, so we have Netherlands.
Round of 16.
Yes.
That's the correct way of saying it.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we have Netherlands up against USA, that match will be played on Saturday, the 3rd of December, the same day when we are commemorating the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, just to bring it across to proximity. we have Argentina versus Australia, and we are seeing that this match will be played also on Saturday. That's at 21 hours Central African time, and the same round of 16 we have France up against Poland. This will be an interesting encounter. This is where we'll test Poland whether they deserved to progress to the round of 16, because France is equally a better side. England will be up against our brothers from Senegal.
Yes.
Are we going to make it?
I don't know anything about these things, Patrick. I think really
England, Senegal.
No, I'm going for Senegal, obviously. I mean, I'm supporting a local. For at this point, what we're calling local is any African country.
Yes.
You know, it's local, so I'm supporting that. I don't know much about football, Patrick. I saw something. I always laugh at this. I watch a lot of, I view actually people's statuses, and I saw this at Uma we cannot kuishiba bola mupeni bra we are you know. So meaning that every man needs to know and understand something about football.
Yes,
but for a woman, I'm exempted. So really,
yes,
it's okay. I know about Senegal, I know about Cameroon, I know about Ghana. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, you've mentioned the teams that are there. I think I'm doing a good job.
You are trying.
Yeah,
you are trying. Don't
yeah.
still a jersey. So
Oh, I see that commitment. No, it will be actualized before the end of 2022. Going further, you were talking about the story on the price.
The story on the price of fuel, yes, it is still monthly reviews, and government has failed to heed to calls from various stakeholders to say, let's have a quarterly review, or let's have a 6-month review. They insist a 1-month review is prudent and is to help them plan. We don't know how it's helping them to plan. Yesterday, ERB announced a price adjustment for fuel, and it's no longer something exciting. It's no longer very, very topical, you know, apart from a few opposition leaders who want to take advantage of the whole situation. But members of the public, really, they're not talking much about it the way it was in the initial stages when they introduced the monthly reviews. Let's look at that story as we zoom in our guest this morning and have a conversation surrounding different issues that have been happening in this country. Let's look at that story, Patrick.
The Energy Regulation Board has adjusted the pump prices of petroleum products upwards by 1 kwacha 58 ingwe per litre for petrol and 1 kwacha 22 ingwe per litre for kerosene, while the pump price of diesel remains unchanged. Further, the ERB has adjusted upwards the posted airfield price of Jet A1 at Camnet International Airport by 1 kwacha 45 ingwe per litre. At the last price review, which yielded the November 2022 prices, the average prices of petrol, diesel and kerosene were $89.32 per barrel, $128.80 per barrel, and $116.61 per barrel respectively, compared to $94.45 per barrel, $127.60 per barrel, and $118.97 per barrel, respectively, for the current price review. The movements in prices represent a rise of 5.7% and 2.02% for petrol and kerosene. The price of diesel declined by 0.9%.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chol. From Cho's Fitness Gym. We're a fully functional gym located along Twin Palm Road in Kablonga, right by Cheshire Homes Society of Zambia. So we have various classes that happen from Monday to Friday. We have aerobics, we have boot camp, we have step aerobics, we have spinning, we have kettlebell classes. They happen from 18 to 19 hours every day, and we are open from 06 until 20 hours. That's Monday to Friday. Then Saturdays 6 to 12, and then Sundays we are closed. And most public holidays we are open 6 to 12. So You're welcome to visit and come and train with us. And for now, I'll show you certain exercises you could do from. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. We were just zooming in a story coming from the Energy Regulation Board, the ERB, where they were announcing the recently adjusted pump prices of fuel, and we saw an increase in terms of petrol while diesel was maintained. However, we are getting your perspective as our viewers on this and other matters. You can share your perspective on how you feel this is affecting you. We are also going to be zooming in some other stories which you can equally give us your perspective on. But right now in studio, we have been joined by our guest this morning. He is coming from the Patriotic Front, and he is the Deputy Media Director, Mr. Edwin Nifwekero. Welcome to the program, sir.
I'm very grateful to have been invited. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And to just get started, Mr. Nifwekero, first of all, people would be interested to understand where are we in terms of the Patriotic Front before we get to other national matters. Let's start internally. We have a pending convention under the PF. Where are we? Who are the people contesting?
When are the campaigns starting?
When are the campaigns starting?
Okay. Generally, the party is okay. I think that we're up and running. It's all systems go for us. You know, after losing an election, it's not the same. There's been a change of goalpost for us to give us an opportunity to do an introspection and generally to rediscover ourselves, reposition ourselves, and remobilize and start mobilizing our members. The party is intact. Like you know, there has never been a vacuum in the PF. Since we lost elections after former President Edgar Chagwa announced that he is no longer in active politics, we had to ensure that we put an acting president, an able acting president in the name of Honorable Given Lovinda, who is currently acting president, and of course acting Secretary General. Also an able Honorable Member of Parliament, Honorable Nixon Chilangwa. So we're up and running. Generally, I'm sure that people are keen, they're interested. I know there are a lot of interests out there. People want to know where we are. I know people have said they give examples of MMD, they give examples of UNEP, they also give examples of PF that after losing election, there's no party that has ever bounced back into power. But the difference between the MMD and UNEP is that UNEP, through its inception, was formed generally to deal with issues of liberation of the country. I think that must be put in perspective. MMD came into office. I think you know, we are aware that after UNEP, MMD came into office under the multi-party system to introduce multi-party politics. MMD were the movement, a movement political party. The difference between these two political parties, UNEP, MMD, and PF, is that the vision of PF, in the manner that it's embedded, was registered and established as a political party, not as a movement, not with the concept of liberating the country, not with the concept of being a movement to introduce multi-party politics. So we are here to stay. With regard to the convention, we should be having a central committee meeting, which is tomorrow, where we are, as usual, interrogating and looking at a number of issues. You know, holding a general conference is not a matter of just abracadabra and then the general conference is held. There are a number of issues which I think the National Executive Committee has been interrogating vis-a-vis the aspect of ensuring that you have actual delegates.
In fact, we are asking you because you are within the party.
Yes.
There's been a lot of speculation and social media talk surrounding the candidates. Let's zero in on the aspect of other candidates withdrawing, demanding a refund. Where such things I'm
here.
Can clarify. I think it's a great opportunity.
As a deputy spokesperson of the party, I'm not aware of any candidate of the 9 candidates that have filed in applications that have withdrawn. generally we all know that when there's such rumors, generally on social media, it's the issue of propaganda, in particular our colleagues from the UPND that would want to peddle that propaganda and make an assumption that some member has withdrawn. There's no such a thing. Who does that? You pay 200,000 kwacha and then you withdraw. Because of what? Because we haven't set the playing field. You are aware that we have to set a playing field. We have to set guidelines. We have to set rules that will determine how these candidates are going to behave themselves, how they're going to run their campaigns. So there will be a schedule that will be set, a time frame set through Acting President Honorable Winda and our Secretary General Dixon Chilongo and the National Executive Committee have been setting to try and look at the a program that will allow all those that have applied as presidential candidates have equal share, a fair distribution of their campaign, so that we do not defranchise any one of those that have. In fact, I don't want to preempt what the Central Committee will be discussing. There will be a number of issues that will come into the plate tomorrow, even as we discuss issues of trying to look at the Constitution. I'm sure that we are aware that the party Constitution, having been one of those people that were there when the party was formed, was just basically a replica of UNIP, word for word. It was just a copy and paste. So we are trying to look at that and so that we remove fears that you have heard from certain candidates who have been coming up to say that.
Is that before the convention?
Yeah, just before the convention. We have to make sure that we clean up the Constitution. We ensure that the level playing field for every member of those that have applied is set so that no one of them cries foul. One, I think to do that, the first premise of ensuring that there's fair play is to ensure that we deal with issues of the delegates. You know very well that if you don't deal with issues of delegates, to do an introspection of the delegates, to take inventory of the delegates, you have the people who have reason to go to court and tell you that I think that these delegates, I think we have heard since time of political parties that have held conventions where people have said delegates were doctored. So we don't want to move that direction. We want to ensure that we do an inventory and ensure that the people that we are taking to the convention are the right people, the correct people that are designated to cast their vote as and when that time is set. So you are aware, of course, a time frame has been set for March. That's it's a time frame that has been set. But even as we set a time frame for March, we are cognizant of the fact that there are a number of serious political intricacies that have to be put in place. Issues which I've mentioned of ensuring that we have right delegates, ensure that the Constitution is cleaned up so that those who are crying foul are not left to ponder and say that we have been mistreated. And so we want to deal with that aspect.
Why this time though? This is the same constitution that you used in 2016.
Yeah, of course.
This is the same constitution you've been using when you're having conventions. Why this time though? Is there a particular grouping that feels already sidelined even before the convention is held?
I think you have heard views. It's there in the public domain of people that have said their attempts of people that want to stop those candidates that have applied for the position of presidents. I think that is coming generally from the fact that there are deficiencies within the party constitution that needs to be cleaned up, like I said, that if they're not dealt with before the general conference, ideally what the implication of that is that there will be people that automatically, because of the constitution, for example, a member that has resigned, you have to be domiciled to belong to the Patriotic Front for a period of more than 3 to 5 years. That has been the parameters in which the constitution was set. You are aware that people resigned and came, and some were even given an opportunity to stand for some very, very important positions in society. Of course, the National Executive Committee and the Central Committee at that time, designated to carry that responsibility, decided that they should allow this, even by bending rules. So if we don't want illegalities. Ideally, what we want to do is to ensure. I know the question is why this time. Why this time? It's because at the end of the day, we recognize as a party that the constitution of the Patriotic Front is not cast in stone. We are the ones who set up this constitution, and we realize that there are a lot of gray areas that need to be polished, to be cleaned. so that we ensure that the same issue I was talking about of ensuring that we have a level playing field. And that's basically where we are. So we cannot go to have a general conference with a constitution that is hanging, that people will question tomorrow and say that this person is not fit to stand because according to clause what, and this person is not in good standing with the party. So in order to avoid that, we don't want to be in a hurry just to have a convention for the sake of having a convention and to please our adversaries there who wish us to have a convention, and then ultimately in the long run you have issues, pertinent issues that might come on board where people start questioning the credibility of the convention. Basically that's what we're trying to deal with at the moment. So hence a decision taken, and I'm sure that a number of pertinent, important matters will be discussed as we meet tomorrow at the Central Committee meeting, where there's been, of course, this observation and this call that we need to deal with these deficiencies, for example, from our party's perspective in terms of the constitution, the lacunas that have been identified in our party constitution, and generally to do an inventory and ensure that we carry the right delegates to the convention so that we don't have these impediments in future, or legal technicalities where somebody takes you to court. So we are on course, and we know that our prayer is that when everything is said and done, everyone should be on board. I know people are saying no, there will be a make and break.
Yes.
So
It's expected. It's expected. I think we had a conversation yesterday, Patrick. Say after the convention, we'll have splinter groups.
Are we going to have the PF?
Our prayer,
the true PF and the PF.
No. In fact, you know where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a perspective of having been one of those people that were part and parcel to the vision and establishment of PF. Having been, of course, from inception, having been one of the first Secretary General of the party. There is no such thing as true green, true PF. I think that issue of people that are trying to bring to say we are the ones who started must not be either here nor there, because ultimately all political parties are set for a certain purpose and reason, and it's obvious that people that set political parties are not the ones that run a political party. For a political party to grow, you have to have new members. So we must treat each member of the party, those that are coming to join, on equal basis, not because me, I was there in inception. If you were there in inception, what have you done to grow the party?
Talking about purpose, Mr. Alifwekelo.
Yes.
Your purpose as Patriotic Front, according to what we know, the democratic tenets, the opposition are supposed to offer checks and balances to the government.
Absolutely.
Are you doing that job correctly?
Yes.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the UPND, at least this year?
The rating becomes difficult. Maybe
generally,
but will be. I think
it's a general rating. We will delve into the nitty-gritties.
Yeah. I think that UPND made promises. Our job is to interrogate those promises, and our job is to ensure that the promises that they made are fulfilled. There are a number of issues. It's a debate that maybe you can take the whole day to do an introspection and interrogate as to whether UPND have performed according to expectations. There are a number of teething problems. My view will be in dealing with whether UPND 1 out of 10, instead of just saying the 6 out of 10, or 7 out of 10, or 2 out of 10. Of course, people think that I'm just campaigning, or rather I'm just doing propaganda, or maybe just trying to belittle. So
is it a 6, 7, or 2?
Yeah, I would give them 4 out of 10.
4?
A 4 out of 10, in the sense that yes, they'll claim that they promise free education. I think that's one component that comes so vividly. It's just the issue of education. But even the issue of free education, it has come with its own teething problems. I'm sure you're aware that out of 150 pupils in a class, it's a ratio of 150 to a ratio to a teacher. So at the end of the day, classes are crowded. Yes, the vision is good. But the thought behind it in terms of having free education is good. And it worked well under UNIP, because then the population was not so was not so big. And for now, in order to provide free education, you have to have infrastructure in place. You have to have resource, you have to have human resource as well. So ultimately, the information, the feedback we are getting on that aspect is that classes are overcrowded, and it's difficult for a teacher to really be able to make impact on a student, and they don't even have time at the moment to deal with those pupils that might be weaker, that require attention. So there's that aspect. Meal meal allowance, yes, it has been introduced, but I think you are aware that it's only basically at University of Zambia and Corporate University. There are a number of universities, a number of institutions, colleges that cannot even have that privilege of them having access to that free allowance. So it's neither here nor there. I would rather we deal with where we feel that these guys, I think, have lamentably failed. I think that one area they have lamentably failed is in the agriculture sector.
Why do you say so?
I say so because, generally everybody comes with their own system, where you feel that your system works better for you. And you're aware that immediately the UPND came into government, the thing they did first was to dissolve or rather abolish the FISIP arrangement. Okay, they introduced their own arrangement, and you have seen now from undertaking that has been made by the president, he's saying, yes, we have failed to deliver fertilizer on time, and he's gone to the Zambian people telling them that they must be forgiven because of the teething problems, and he further went to lament and say it's because of the change of the system. But these are the issues that the UPND, even when people were voting for them, should have taken into consideration. Because to the Zambian people, when they went to vote for the UPND, ideally the president said he had answers and solutions. And ideally, the same campaign slogan which they had, that he is going to fix. So people voted on the basis that he will fix. So to have this chaotic situation in the agriculture sector, if I were the Minister of Agriculture, Mutalo Piri, I think I would have resigned, arising from the confusion, already the issue of fertilizer. This is December, farmers do not have fertilizer, some do not have seed. I mean, that's unacceptable. You can't stand and be in an office as a minister, and today people are still waiting for fertilizer and they're still waiting for seed for them to plant. And we know that the season coming, in terms of the season which is coming next, we envisage that there are going to be levels of poverty are going to be high, because the yield in terms of the maize yield will not be as expected, of course, because of one, lack of the seed, lack of fertilizer. And I think if you recall, even during our time when former President Edgar Lungu was in office, and other aspects came into play, issues of drought and stuff came into play. We spent almost 2 years as PF dealing with issues of drought and flash floods and stuff, and trying to now take some feed to other areas, needy areas. So in the agriculture sector, it has been a disaster. I think that it will not be folly to call for the resignation of the Minister of Agriculture, because he has failed lamentably, and even for the president to accept and say that yes, we haven't done well. Generally, in any setup or in any government, the minister would have resigned. Issues of health, you've seen the saga that is happening in the Ministry of Health. If you go to the hospital, there's nothing to talk about in terms of the medicines that they promised that once they come into power, they would deal with the issues of medicines and stuff.
But this is not new, Mr. Defokele. It used to happen even under the Patriotic Front.
No.
It's not a new thing. Not justifying the situation.
No.
But
I'm not saying it's new. No, I didn't even say that.
So it's a myth that has continued to happen.
New, It's not new, but it has been aggravated even more with the coming of the UPND government for lack of supply of medicine. Yes, in the past, yes, even under the PF government, there were issues where people would complain that they'll be given prescriptions. At the end of the day, they end up accessing a Panadol and stuff. But generally, I think our plan as PF generally was to do first the infrastructure. Even as we were dealing with the supply of medicine, to a larger extent, I think that the situation currently obtaining was not as bad as the way it was under the PF government. With this situation that we have currently, where the minister makes a statement, the Minister of Health will make a statement, say, we have supply of medicine in all hospitals. If you do an interrogation, you find that really, even if it's not new, at the end of the day, I would rather government takes responsibility and say, we have a challenge. And the challenge is emanating from ABCD. Wow,
which they have.
Which people Zambia will listen to. But I'm just trying to give a...
Which they have. Maybe let's just remind you. The minister, I think, Silva Masevo, at one point noted to say the issue of middlemen, and isn't this the same thing that used to happen under the PF?
Which one?
Of middlemen ordering medicine for you, ordering from importing medicines,
but
the process.
But what was the undertaking by the UPND?
What is the difference now? Is it the planning or is it?
I think the issue of planning, and in fact the issue which has permeated this situation to be in the manner that it is at the moment is that the so-called middlemen are the biggest suppliers of the very medicine supplying, that supply institutions. So if you come and make a decision to say, of course, based on their promises, they said that the reason why we have been having a challenge in terms of supply of medicine in hospitals has been on the premise of having middlemen. So you make an undertaking and say, once we come into office, we are going to remove the middlemen. Probably that's what they're doing. In removing the middlemen, you are removing even those potential suppliers that were the ones that were in charge and responsible for supplying medicine to the hospitals and to the system. So ideally what has happened is that because of naivety of you believing that everyone was supplying was PF, even genuine suppliers, those that really meant well, and are genuine suppliers dealing with their own business from a noble perspective, have also been curtailed because the UPND government perceives everyone that supplies. It's the same in the mining. I think that even suppliers, even today, suppliers haven't been paid because they are still doing an inventory and doing an introspection as whether these people are genuine or not.
Oh, they are PF.
In fact, they don't even doubt. They are just saying everyone who supplied is PF, whether in the mine, whether in the health sector, they are PF. So that's the confusion that you're having at the moment, where you have stopped, you have put a stop to the people that were supplying, and then you don't even have suppliers. So you know what will happen eventually? They'll have their own suppliers. So people will come on board. So people will take advantage of the confusion that is there and start even manufacturing companies that don't even exist. And those are the people that own. So everyone wants to have a cut in the business sector, and everybody will take a look at that as an opportunity for them to supply. So the challenge we have currently is that people are still manufacturing companies in the hope that they will be able to be the ones who supply, because everyone who was there genuinely or not genuine, being perceived that they were PF sympathizers. So that's what the challenge is.
You mentioned a very good aspect of the PF focused on infrastructure development.
Yes.
And that's why probably issues pertaining to health or probably you did not do as expected because you wanted to do that later. But President Hakainde Hichilema has argued that issue to say infrastructure development was being pursued by the PF to get kickbacks, because that's the easy way of getting those kickbacks, where we had PF aligned institutions that would be given contracts. They would be taken as middlemen. They would also be given contracts which they subcontract to others as well. And that's the reason why you pursued infrastructure development. What would be your immediate reaction to that?
My immediate reaction would be, are you not seeing the same in the UPND, where the so-called people that are supposed to be responsible for example, you're giving an example of infrastructure that ultimately there were people out there who, because of kickbacks, a lot of people were contracted ultimately because people were motivated on the premise that they will have a kickback. But I think we're seeing the same happening. And two wrongs don't make a right. Generally, you know that the confusion in the agriculture sector currently is emanating from the fact that the supply chain of people that are supplying fertilizer, the number of the companies that have come into play are rising from concerns by Transparency International.
Okay,
the number of them are
on that thought, let's pick the score. Hello, good morning. Hello?
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, thanks. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, you're talking to Peter.
Yes, Peter.
I'm calling you from Jakarta.
All right, go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, first of all, I've got some challenges with your presentation, especially you, Sharon, because, number one, you present your subject from your section as if your views are what is going on the ground. So I would suggest that you give us what people say on the ground, than you presenting your subject in a manner that you hear or understand what the public is saying. It should not show that you are siding with a political party or an institution. Give what people say on the ground than your personal views. You know, listen also to these international journalists. As they start their presentation, they are able to tell where it's going. You won't hear any personal views. Then, for that man from PF, patriotic failure, I think don't bring those scandals back. They are very happy. They are the cause of these problems we are facing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. We hear you. I don't understand what he meant, though. We'll move on.
Yes, we respect his opinion.
Yes, he's entitled to it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Please
you
continue your
were
thought.
explaining that perspective, Mr. Difwekere.
Yes. Which one?
You were-
Before I lost my thoughts.
Yeah, I understand. But the question I'd asked earlier was about the kickbacks arrangement, and we're saying it is the same.
Yeah, I was saying that we are seeing the same thing happening in terms of contracts, questionable contracts that are being given. Even now, whether in the health sector, in the agricultural sector, there's confusion there. There have been, I think that in the past months, issues surrounding, for example, supply of fertilizer. I was trying to give that as an example because someone mentioned that the fact that we did infrastructure was based on the fact that there were kickbacks. So I'm trying also to give you that, for example, there are companies belonging to ministers in the UPND government that have single-sourced, just as one example, to supply fertilizer. And we know that as a fact. We don't even know, for example, the other example, we don't even know at what point an advert was put in the media to allow, for example, Grant Thornton and the other company that are dealing with the auditing of defense wings, at what point they were selected for them to give.
I'm sure they said that it was a direct bidding process.
Yeah, direct or no direct bidding, but at the end of the day, but you just to come and arrive at two companies and say, even if it's direct bidding, that these are the companies that have been picked. We smell an invisible hand that anyone would have just directed to say this company must be given that.
What was the best way of doing it?
The best way is to advertise and allow people to bid openly, so that even companies must lose or not be given that responsibility to have that contract on the basis of evaluations and whatever that is takes place in terms of the bidding.
Do we as a country have that time to
Yes, we do.
advertise, call for bids?
The reason, Sharon, is time or no time. What you would want to do is to create a situation where there's accountability and transparency at the end of the day. Whether it takes you a month, 2 months, but generally you would have followed the procedure to ensure that everybody is allowed to bid on equal basis and not just to direct that these companies are there. So it's still happening. We are seeing a number of issues in every sector that you look, whether it's the transport sector. Again, those challenges are still happening, where companies are picked and then people are allowed to do their bidding. So yes, not all was rosy when PF was there. No one has come to say we were the best or we did our part, because every government that comes into place, mind you, all of them have their own responsibility. All of them must play their role. PF played their role in the period that we were given the responsibility to govern this country. So within their confines and within those parameters, they did what they could at a particular time. Of course, we know reasons are vast why, of course, at the end of the day, people rejected PF. The number of issues of postmortems have been done where we went wrong, issues of cadarism, this and that, that we stopped listening and that. But generally, in every confine of the party, whether in the opposition, when UPND was in the opposition, now that they're in power, every political party has a responsibility to introspect. And for PF, we have learned our lessons that maybe we could have done it differently. And given an opportunity, we'll do it differently. The leadership also is different. You have a leadership at a given time. It does not mean that that leadership must be judged based on the future generation of leadership that will come there. People think differently. We might just have a different a dynamic kind of leadership, or people that will come on board and revolutionize the aspect of leadership from that perspective. So every political party must be given an opportunity based on basically their foundation, their vision, their ideology, and what ultimately would want to achieve at the end of the day.
I want to bring it to another issue, subject,
Yes.
Mr. Rifwekero. Under the PF, we only had 1.6 million as a constituency development fund,
Yes.
a CDF.
Yes.
And with the coming of the UPND, we have seen that they have increased it to 25.7 million kwacha. And subsequently,
next
in the
year.
2023 to 28.
Even,
And,
even at the backdrop of a very chaotic situation.
So now, but isn't that
No.
something progressive that as you analyze their performance for the year 2022, isn't that something progressive, or do you think, was that a good move or a bad move? Just your perspective. And
bad move in the sense that the system that deals with the aspect of dissemination of the very CDF fund you are talking about is not a clean kind of arrangement, where my opinion would have been first to strengthen the system designed to disseminate that information which is not there. For example, you have seen that even from the time the CDF was increased to 25 million, before it was even increased to 28, there were challenges. I think PS has labored from time to time. The issue of bone of contention at that particular time was that the guidelines were extremely rigid, that they did not allow just general people, poor people, those that did not understand how to go about accessing the very resources. And it is happening now. A number of people, cooperatives that have been formed, are still crying foul that it's been very difficult for them to access these resources, because it's not basically the question of just saying 25 million and accessing it. I'm sure you know that the challenges and confusion that have been there have been for people to meet the rationale that has been set in terms of accessing the same CDF. As much as it is good that it has been increased, you are aware that most of this money, even when the Minister of Finance was assuring that no money will be sent back to the Treasury, we are aware that money is still sitting in accounts and nobody has been able to access. So the issue is, which is better, to have 1.6 million where people will be able to distribute? Because even 1.6, you know, Patrick, that even 1.6 members of parliament had a challenge to do the distribution of 1.6 million.
but
They couldn't have it on time. Sometimes they
not
couldn't.
sometimes, yeah, but sometimes they will have it. But still, if you look at the level of development that was there in terms of impact of that 1.6, of course, others were sharp. Those in rural areas, they'll use the same money for coming up with clinics and hospitals.
An interesting point, Mr. Rifwekero, as you put your
thoughts together.
There's also an aspect of there's been that the PF was selectively distributing the same 1.6, in that opposition strongholds would not be given the money on time, and not given at all in some cases. But at the moment, each council has to receive the funds at the same time. Then we also look at the issue of we have seen members of parliament, probably PF members of parliament, who have been saying that CDF is working. Let's say Sunday Chanda from Kanchibia, a PF member of parliament, where they are saying that the women are getting their share. They have purchased their graders and other things, and you are saying that it is not attainable and not as effective.
No, basically at the end of the day, you are given constituency development fund. Ultimately, it comes down to a particular member of parliament to ensure that those resources are distributed accordingly, okay, on time and generally for its intended purpose. I'm saying that there are reports, and these reports are everywhere. It's not basically, yes, Sunday Chanda might be doing very well other members of parliament will come and say, yes, CDF is working very well. But the issue at play here was the aspect that even if you have this money that has been, for example, cooperatives. Let me give an example of cooperatives. My mother belongs to one of the cooperatives. She's a farmer. And to date, they're having a challenge of accessing, for example, they were taught to form cooperatives. To date, they're having a challenge of accessing fertilizer. They're having a challenge of accessing seed. Even those that have formed cooperatives, we went round a month ago just to check after the introduction of the same Consumer Development Fund. Ultimately, cooperatives, for example, if they are 40, and you remember, these monies you are talking about, 25 million, is not given outright, that's 25 million. It's being given in portions. I think, if my record serves me right, I think about last month, maybe 2.6, 3.6 or 5 point something million out of that money that has been apportioned for the same constituency development fund. Ultimately, what has happened is that, for example, if you have 40 cooperatives, 40 cooperatives are divided into an amount that has been set, maybe 2.6 million. You'll find that people are going away with a 1,000 kwacha, 900 kwacha, from what we have just done in terms of simple investigations. And if you are going to register a cooperative and you are paying 1,500 kwacha to form a cooperative, and ultimately you are given 1,000 kwacha for you as a cooperative to administer that money, it does not make sense at all. Right. So I think the challenge that is there generally is the
implementation part.
The
Let's
implementation aspect.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks. Please tell us your name.
This is Mr. Banda from the startup.
Yes, Mr. Banda.
You can go ahead.
I just want to say that Mr. certainly that expected. You are the best soldier, and then I just want to recommend my finger Honorable Chilina, what is the that is sponsored by CF that is going to work down of the day. I just want to say, even within CF, there are two MPs who are people, who are seen to the work of the I just want to say that you are UPNC. And the reason why you want to say because of the good questions of UPNC. Don't stop me speaking Zambia. Thank you.
Mr.
All right.
Fekero, you were UPND.
Mr. Banda, thank you so much.
Mr.
You
Banda
too can call us and
contribute
on the show. We're in conversation with Mr. Fekero. Give us your voice and you will be heard. Mr. Fekero, you are a UPND. Your blood is
real. The policies of UPND.
You are UPND.
No, the issue is it's not even a question that whether people are UPND. There are a number of people that were UPND. If you want to find out people that were, could have been in UPND, they moved, they came back into PF for other political parties. There are a number, even President Edgar Lungu, before he became president of the party.
He was a UPND?
Yes, even Vice President Inonga Wina at one time was UPND. Even our acting President Honorable Levin at one time was UPND. So we've been there. We've tested what sort of leadership is there. Of course, what we didn't test was as to whether, if they come into government, how are they going to perform. But generally, everybody has got their own reasons why they will serve in a political party.
And leave.
And then leave. Because generally, it's a democratic right of everyone to decide as and when they want to...
Where they want to belong.
You talked about members of parliament that...
want to work with the government.
Place to work with the government of the day.
This is just a normal, ordinary behavior of members of parliament. It's not new. I'm sure you're aware that even when PF was in government, there are a number of UPND, currently some of them serving at the moment, that supported PF. And at one time, some people were almost removed, but they could not be removed because the court decided that they had every right to remain in that political party. So it has been there, where people have supported the political party on the basis that they're now in the governing party. So we don't know. I don't know what is motivating the Muchinga member of parliament or other members of parliament to say we want to work with government. In any case, by virtue of being a member of parliament, members of parliament are part of government because another arm of government.
So let's zoom in one of the stories, Sharon, coming from the clergy, where they are talking about KCM. We understand that the Patriotic Front, you also have a different perspective.
Yes.
But there are also a section of society that wants that as a suggestion on how KCM issue should be handled. So we play that story. We also get your perspective, Mr. Rifwekero.
Konkola copper mines and Mopani copper mines have been one of the major economic assets on the Copperbelt province, providing employment to more than 4,000 residents. The impasse that has surrounded the operations of the two mines have negatively affected most households in the province, especially in Chingola and Mufulira townships where people have lost employment while economic activities have depleted. In an effort to save the mines from completely collapsing, the United Party for National Development UPND administration have settled to deal with the matter out of courts, but the process seems to be taking longer for the people of the area. The clergy representing Mufulira and Chingola townships have since called on Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema to consider giving back KCM to Vendettas Resources Limited if it is the only investor that has expressed interest in reinvesting back into the mines.
Tulanda tubulwele wishiwe tabwafya kutensha chivembecho nabomvye in case palawe na chipata tabwafya kutensha panu maninchi wati chipute chibereri yapo nakula ishwefu nakula ikala manengwa pakutini ikala pesa pachipute. So this is why we are saying akana nkantu kalipawari, they are the only ones Vendetta that has shown interest to say they are willing and ready to come back based on the new policies that they will be given. Without politics, believe you me, these mines will perform better and will perform well. We know His Excellency is a man of no nonsense.
The clergy have also advised government to stop politicizing the mining sector, adding that if politics are removed from the operations of the mining sector will flourish.
If they invest back into the mines, we give them a time frame of, let's say, 3 years. If they don't do according to what we have agreed with the government, with us, the community, we have a responsibility to rise up and say,
and Anglican Church Father Harris Sakapaji feels Vendetta did a lot of corporate social responsibility which cannot be ignored, and says Vendetta should be given rules in which it should operate, adding that if it fails to abide by the rules, then the government will have the right to repossess the mines.
They have built schools near the market. As their mothers, as their parents are doing business at the market, children are at school and fed. They're the ones who sponsor in cooperation with the Council of Churches in Zambia. So there are such schools. So history has it. But immediately, as the bishop was saying, immediately politics came in. That's why we have come to appeal from His Excellency, the President, that give them, or they have got more shares, they are the owners.
The clergy have since called on President Hichilema to invite them to a roundtable discussion over the matter. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Welcome back. There you have it. That's the story we're zooming in pertaining to the mining sector KCM issue in particular, where we have issues that are pending between the government and Vedanta, and the two parties have opted to resolve matters outside the court, and we are seeing calls that Vedanta should be given an opportunity to govern. But we have also covered stories on this platform where some sections of society feel Zambians should run KCM and not given to Vedanta, considering how they previously conducted themselves in the mining sector. So now, we want to get the perspective of our guest on this same issue, Mr. Rifwekero. Under the PF, you opted to nationalize KCM, and this is a matter that has been dragging in court for a long time now.
Yes.
But what would be your immediate reaction to the story we are just playing there?
And are we capable of running these mines as Zambians?
Yes, I'm not so sure whether, I don't know, I need to get back to understand as to whether the PF government's view was basically to nationalize the the mines. I think that will require maybe to try and do a bit of consultation. But whether that being the case, I think that the issue of KCM, the issue of vendetta, one question that people should ask is, what was the position of the unions on the copper belt, the mining unions on the copper belt with regard to vendetta, even before this saga was generated and in the manner that it has now become an issue there? I think that the unions were very clear. They didn't want to have anything to do with vendetta. And I think that the reasons, according to basically what we saw happening, which is on record, was that they underperformed and did not take the interest of the mining conglomerates and, of course, suppliers of mines. Because, you know, in this supply chain, there are people that supply certain ingredients to the mine that have been left out. So the position was that the vendetta, they didn't want vendetta to be anywhere near. And in any case, I think that it would be prudent for us to really be advocating that Zambians themselves must be the ones that must be running the
Are we
mines.
capable of that?
I think that we are capable, and in our capability, ideally what normally happens is that the only reason why Zambian would not run a mine has been the issue of finance. But if Zambians, capable Zambians, were to team up and be able to work in partnership with cooperating partners and be able to source funding, we'll be able to run the mines. The issue of vendetta, really, there are a lot of interests in this issue. And I think that even prior to the general election, you remember Patrick Sharon, that there were accusations that monies were exchanged, where people promised to say, if once we come into power, we'll bring you back. Remember that time there were issues. President Edgar Chagwa had made a decision to remove vendetta, and somebody as a liquidator was appointed to run the mines. But then along the way, even when the opinion of UPND at that particular time was that they did not want vendetta, now they are changing of goalposts where people are being sponsored to say that vendetta must come back because they have the ability and they have the finances to run the mines. Generally, our position as PF is that we need partnership. I think to run the mines, there must be this PP's partnership where you bring in people that have the muscle, the capacity to be able to team up with Zambia and be able to run the mines. I don't think we can fail to run the mines. This issue of international, at the end of the day, they make the profit, the monies and staff profits. They externalize the profits to their own countries, and you have nothing to show off at the end of the day. Hence, even the dilapidation or the rigidity in terms of GDP growth, which we are failing to capitalize and be able to have an economy that is sober and sound and robust, that will be able to help the Zambian out there. So even when those people are showing on the clip, those who are singing, and so on, vendetta, nabadiamo, so now it's vendetta. Someone somewhere, an invisible hand, has sponsored someone to say support us, so that there's that grow in terms of momentum, where people say, no, it looks like people want vendetta. Then the government will be forced to make a decision based on that momentum. Who knows? It might even be government. It's possible. It has happened before, where interest of government is being vested into segments of society, the clergy, marketeers and other people, so that you have a divisive opinion at the end of the day, where people start saying, I think vendetta must be brought back. So there's vested interest in this matter, and our appeal to government, they must handle it with diligence and care that it deserves, so that we don't get it wrong. Because currently, you know that the prices of copper are extremely high. And any delay in ensuring that we have a partner that deals with the aspect of mining sector, then you lose out, because we are losing billions and billions of dollars emanating from the fact that the copper currently is high. So every delay, every settlement outside government, like we are hearing that there will be settlement outside, we don't know what happens outside there, what discussions are taking place, whose interest, is it government interest or it's personal interest, is it individuals, is it payback time that people feel they have to compensate certain people that maybe supported them during their campaign. So all those things must come into play. But ideally, I think the issue of mining which is a very serious component of our economic aspect, must be dealt with the diligence and care that deserves. And we pray and hope as Patriotic Front that matter can be resolved as quickly as possible, so that all these challenges you have, where you have segments of suppliers not being given money, a lot of suppliers to the mines are not being given their dues. And it's reality on the ground. And we want to speak about reality because Zambia belongs to Zambians. And at the end of the day, if you come as a president or minister of mines of individuals.
Right, we can pick that call. And hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yes, go ahead with your contribution.
My contribution is to go to a that's what I want to speak about. Then two, when you move a new position, it is not that you make a lot of changes. They will not be better. The possibility of error is very, very high. Take it as an example. You should have gone the way it was until the capital of the private sector, then we can come and change. The CPF staff, you pushing so much money before starting those CPF deposits, which was given at that time. How was it that? How effective was? What was needed to? What was lacking? Before you increase the higher assistance. Sometimes you have to do problems in your phone. Those higher assistance for CPF, if somebody can show for and request. How does he manage to work? So, ideas are there, but not a road there. That is what we need to understand. You can't achieve those things in a short time. That's the end of this thing. Because if they say, the classroom must have 50 students, are we within the same standard? If we are the 45 or 50 in the class, then you bring a boy team, which is how attractive, which is very difficult to take standards. You can't get enough.
All right.
In fact, the expression they're talking about, and one of the people went through expression that he practice churches. The expression is not when the government gives you an answer, that is not expression.
The line over.
Now, that's not
All right. Kabwe representing there, we got part of your contribution, but the line got faint. If you can call us back and put your point across, we would gladly appreciate. However, I heard part of it in terms of over-promising, and you literally failed to achieve, and you cannot achieve this much in a short period of time. You also talked about the issue of CDF, talked about the issue of free education as one of the beneficiaries. I'm not sure when exactly, because the free education is for this year, according to the UPND. But it's been there, hasn't it? According to you.
Under UNIP, yes.
Under UNIP, okay.
Yes.
So he's a beneficiary under that time. You were saying something before we picked that call. Maybe you can pick it up from there, or maybe respond to one or two things that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, you can proceed.
Yeah, I think the caller journalist is making an observation based on the current situation on what's happening. And ideally, I expect that everyone that comes on platform like this will be able to interrogate based on reality of what's happening on the ground. And basically, I think he has tried by all means just to give a perspective of what is happening in terms of free education, the overcrowding I was talking about, and just the pupil to teacher ratio, which has been compromised. Ultimately, also the education value itself in terms of quality of education is being compromised also ultimately. Because if you can't give quality education to people, where people take their time to administer the learners and be able to impact the knowledge that they want to give, if at all they're not being assimilated by the pupils or the students, then the intended objective is being eroded and diluted to a larger extent.
Yeah.
So those are the challenges.
Interesting. As we wind up our discussion, Mr. Ifrekeno, I just want to also ask this question that has been topical. I ask almost all political leaders. You answer it as we wind up. There's an aspect of, first of all, the government is of the view that there is no opposition in the country, in that you are not providing credible checks and balances, especially as opposition political parties. Hence, they feel it will be even a walkover come 2026. Then, secondly, is it true that you politicians suffer from amnesia, considering that you speak very well when you are not given power, but when you go into government, you tend to say things from the different lenses.
Become mute.
What happens?
I do remember when I was with the current president, President Hakainde Hichilema. I think that his saying was, "I'm cut from a different cloth." I think you heard that saying, that I'm cut from a different cloth. Maybe it's also an issue politicians have with time. It has become part of this political dynamism where ultimately you say something different when you are in opposition. When you come into government,
it's a different
ballgame. Get drunk with power and do something else. On the issue of strength of the opposition, I think that the opposition political parties currently are quite extremely strong in terms of providing checks and balances. It will be wrong and it's not right to say that the 2026 general election will be a walkover unless miracles happen where UPND government, through the promises, a lot of promises that have made, come into fruition, which I do not believe will happen. So there is a saying also, in particular on this aspect of PF, people, from the time we lost elections, there is no day, in particular, their current president, ministers, where they don't talk about PF. And I just want to remind them that no one in their own right framework of mind talks about a dead horse. When you are dead, no one will talk about you because they know that you don't add any value to anything. So for the fact that they are talking about PF, it means that PF is not dead. It's extremely active. Its membership is embedded and grounded. And you might have these perceptions of leadership wrangles, perceived so-called leadership wrangles, or thinking that maybe the party is not united. But ultimately, I'm sure you agree with me that even after losing elections, in the last 2021 general elections, the general membership of the party has remained grounded. And a lot of people are just telling us, get it right, get the leadership there, president there, secretary general there, and everything. It's all systems go, and we are ready to fly. So the reason why UPND talks about UPND talks about PF is because in their wildest dreams, they don't want ever to imagine that PF can still come back. So they would rather, they will tell you that you are dead. And I've heard this from Honorable Milopi, I've heard this from Honorable Moetwa, their spokesperson, who keep on saying, forget about PF, but they're talking about it. Forget about PF, but they're talking about it. So they'll be talking about PF until we get to the general election. And President Hakainde Hichilema will continue commissioning PF projects until 2026.
Those are Zambian people's projects, not your project.
No, they are PF project in the sense that it's PF that
the government is a going concern.
Government, yes, it's an ongoing vehicle that everyone that comes out, someone takes over, and they've argued to say no, it was taxpayers' money. Yes, it is taxpayers' money, but ultimately, as Grey Zulu put it, who did it? But yes, who
is your preferred candidate for the PF?
From the Secretariat, we don't have any preferred candidate.
Yourself?
No, I don't have a preferred candidate. And I will tell you the reason why. Because I'm a worker of the party, and I must be neutral. So
you're like a civil servant.
I'm like a civil servant. So every one of them, whether it's Munduvide, it's Chitalu, it's Mausamba, it's Monde, all these are our babies.
It's Kambwidi.
You
need to mention all the 9 because if you don't, we will know where you are siding to.
Who else have I left out? Emmanuel Mwamba, Mao Sampa, all these are our babies. And our job is to harness them. Our job is to ensure that we give them everything that they need in terms of their running about and the publicity. Our secretariat basically is just to give them information and to run with every one of them. Ultimately, the membership of the party will decide which one is a preferred candidate. I might have a preferred candidate in my heart, but I would not say that this is my preferred candidate, because by and large my position does not allow me to pick any one of them to say this one is a preferred candidate. But we know all of them have certain attributes. All of them have something to contribute to the party, and we hope when everything is said and done, the party will remain intact, and then we are going to move and be able to change these perceptions that are there come 2026 and be able to deliver on behalf of the Zambian people.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rifwekero, for honoring our invitation to be part of us in the studio for the Breakfast Show Thursday edition.
I'm most humbled. I'm most humbled to Sharon and to the management of Camnet Television, to my father, Pastor Chiluba, my mentor, Pastor Chiluba. I know that maybe he might be watching. We definitely find time to come and see you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Interesting.
All right,
Pastor
good luck.
Chiluba Sharon has been the father of many people who host on this.
He's the father of everyone.
On this
He's the father of everyone, but I become selfish sometimes. I want him to be my father alone. Yes,
yeah.
My father alone.
You found a brother.
No. I don't want him to be my brother.
No, there are reasons why he doesn't want me to be a brother.
Oh my. But anyways, good luck to you, the Patriotic Front. Going forward, we will continue to follow up your proceedings and bring it to the public and see to it that you have a leader in place. Thank you so much to the viewers that contributed on the show. I appreciate your viewership. Join us again tomorrow from 7 to 9. Good morning.